All right, welcome back, friends. Hopefully you've had some good discussions, met some new scrapbookers that you didn't know before. For those who are watching in the replay, these lovely faces just participated in 3 rounds of small group discussion about their experiences and finishing and, of course, not finishing projects to see if we can peel back some of those layers and better understand why we don't finish projects. I want you to put your thinking caps on and think about what takeaways you want to share. But first, I want to share a little peek into our classroom for the finishing project, which starts tomorrow. Actually, what we're going to do is I'm going to hear your tips first, because hopefully I'll be able to save the recording regardless. And then I will try to screen share at the very end, because that was the weirdest thing I've never experienced before. All right, so let's hear what you talked about.
Well, in my first group, most of us agreed that Project Life was one of the biggest projects that we never finish. And for me, it's usually like as soon as I get behind, right? The feeling of being behind. And I last maybe March, April. And I felt like it was like I get behind. And one of the biggest reasons I get behind with that and everything else is that there's always so much inspiration and always the next project that people are sharing or is coming up, October daily, December daily, that I get distracted by the next shiny thing. And that's why I don't finish. But with Project Life specifically, I think it's more like it gets very repetitive and you kind of get bored of it. So, and I know that a couple of the people that I was talking with had the similar sentiment.
Yeah, we talked about that in our group too, especially like with classes, and you start out excited about it, but then you see the next one or the next project like you're talking about, and now you get distracted by that and you never go back and finish that.
Mm-hmm. I think in particular with Project Life or anything that's really trying to keep caught up for the year, the quantity of photos we take has made that increasingly hard to stay caught up. Because once you're behind, then you have that many more photos. So it's almost like it's a huge increase, and it just can feel really daunting to sit down and tackle all those. 1 week at a time is doable. A month is like, okay, I can do this, yay. But if you have more than a month, then it's like, this is a lot of photos.
45 years, what the heck?
Yes.
That makes me think of like debt, right? Like the interest rate, it's almost like photo debt. Like your interest rate keeps going up and then you get more and more and more. So
it can just feel that much more daunting to be able to make decisions, because of course we make better decisions when we have a fewer number of choices. So it's easy to delete photos from a week or a day, but it's much harder when you start getting these much larger numbers of images.
Yeah.
All right, I'm curious of some of the trends you noticed besides Project Life. Is there anything related to like the size or the format of it?
No.
Like you finish mini albums, but you don't finish big albums?
I think that's it. I think the ongoing projects are a little harder to finish, but when they're time bound. So I said, oh, I know what I do finish. It's everything else I don't finish. If it's a vacation album or something that's specific, I can finish that.
Yes.
Beginning and end. That makes it a lot easier.
Is that
anything that has boundaries around it? Go ahead, Iris.
Well, I was going to say one of the boundaries is probably your limit of photos. Your trip is done. You don't have any more.
Yeah.
Right.
You don't have to save room for what's potentially coming either, or try to make predictions from that.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, I don't have any small children or anything that I'm trying to photograph a lot as they're growing up or when they do cute things. It's just my husband, myself, and my daughter, who's 40. So I don't take a lot of pictures, but I've got boxes of old stuff I need to handle. And that's it. Some days I just look at it, close the door, and walk away because I don't know where to start. So, and I did work on the Before Your Knee or whatever that was. And I got out the photos and then I put them back. I did get some scanned, so that's nice because now I can alter sizes and stuff. But
we'll keep working on you with the Before Your Story project, Kathy. You have time.
Meanwhile, I put 3 projects on my list that I know are all doable. And somebody tonight, I think it was Judy or somebody in the first group, gave me an idea for a project I've been stuck on for 2 years on how to solve it. And I was like, that's brilliant. That's what I've been trying to find. So, you know,
Hey,
yay. Hopefully that'll mean progress.
that's terrific.
Mhm. Yay.
Other insights?
We talked in our group a couple times, like what Judy had said about, well, not just Project Life, but like classes, and a lot of people, the new class comes out, and I know I just finished the type class in our group, and 12 weeks, and we broke it up. That's still quite daunting in a lot of ways to stick with that. And I kind of realized for myself, I kind of reframed it. What was my goal from the class? It wasn't to create 12 layouts. It wasn't to do all of the assignments and all of that. It was to improve my use of typography, and to understand it better, to use it better, to be more consistent. And I do that. Like, I found myself doing it outside of those assignments. So I'm calling that, like what you say, you can check things off because it's done. It's like, what was my goal? And I think sometimes it's that reframing for certain things that we
Yes,
need
if you
to-
got what you needed from it, whether it's a class or even a project.
Yep.
Mhm.
You know, if your goal for December daily is to have fun and be more connected to the holiday season, whatever you do to accomplish that counts, even if the project isn't technically done.
I'm hearing lots of justifications.
Oh, for sure. No, one thing that related to what we were discussing earlier is that if it's easier to work with photos that you have finished,
Sure.
what if your goal was always to take the photos in December and then scrapbook them, either, you know, do a Christmas in July thing, or even the following year? Like that this December, you're always scrapbooking the previous December because you have all the photos. You can print them all out, sit down, have fun, make the project in a couple weeks before you get swept away by the actual busyness of the holiday season. And then you do the same thing again next year. Helps you stay excited about the memories and while you're making new ones at the same time.
I feel like that's been a really key thing for me, is the like figuring out what is going to make this exciting to me, like what is going to make this fun or inspiring. And then if I can figure that out, then it's a lot easier to get it done.
Yes. Sometimes that's something new, and sometimes that's like going back to something that's, you know, an old favorite to make it really exciting. Like, I know how to do this. Like, I can do this again and again and never get bored of it.
I find with December Daily that my process works better if I do it later.
Mhm.
So I know what's important and what I actually want to focus on, rather than being in the moment and going, oh, but there's this story and there's that story and there's this other thing that's important, or this day was really bad and I didn't enjoy myself and I don't know what to scrapbook on this day. The time and perspective helps to finish the project.
Yes. I think that goes for so many different projects.
We talked a little bit about what you were saying about less decisions makes it easier to actually get it done. And so for the first time ever, I'm pre-deciding that I'm going to use one kit. I already know what kit I'm going to use, and I'm going to get like one template, and that's all. I'm using what I've already pre-selected, and I'm not going to remember the 52 other things that I bought that were Christmassy and whatever else.
There you go.
Sticking with that, yeah, I'm going to make a plan and just do that.
You know, repeating a page design, whether you're digital, hybrid, paper, whatever, can be really helpful for making it easy, because the more you do it, the more you can batch it, the more it doesn't become an issue. You just know exactly what you need and you gather the things and you do it. And it can actually makes it kind of come together and feel very cohesive as well.
I was going to say, and I like that, where it's all the same like color scheme and all the colors match. And you don't have that one page where you're like, oh, that green does just not go at all with anything else.
Any like things that you've decided from tonight that you want to try, or things that you're considering, ways that maybe you're thinking a little bit differently?
When we were talking course corrections, I said I don't course correct. But after having this conversation just now, I'm thinking maybe I will scrapbook 2020 in 2021 for my December daily and do it that way, because I know it works better for my process and I already know what stories and I've already got a start. So I'm ahead already, which helps.
There you go. That's a huge win. I love it.
I was going to say that I've done that for a few years. I'll do a photo book, but I'll do the previous year, in the current year. But then my kids probably think it's weird, but I wrap it. And so we open it, on Christmas. Well, I think on Christmas. So I try to have it ready for Christmas. So then we can open it and then you can look back at the previous year's Christmas that day.
That's delightful. I love that. Perfect.
Not sure what just happened.
Other insights?
Several people
back, excuse me. Looking back through unfinished projects, my biggest issue has always been the journaling, because I love the creative part of finishing the page other than the journaling. And I would tell myself I'd go back and do it later, but it doesn't happen real often. So I'm trying to write my journaling like on a scrap piece of paper after I decide the project or page and collect up the photos and the products and I have to write the journaling down first before I can start playing with the neat stuff. And that's kind of like a treat for after I wrote my journaling. And that is, I think, helping. And then the other thing was, in one of the groups, one of the ladies suggested to record your ideas for your journaling while you're thinking about it, so that you have a reference for later when you sit down to write. So I think I'm going to try that.
That sounds terrific. I love this idea of, because sometimes, maybe you're in a group setting and everything's noisy and you don't want to sit down and actually do the handwriting, or you don't have a computer to do hybrid journaling, but to just jot it down means you can just transcribe it later. Really, you're just putting it on the page, but the thought process part's already done. So I love that. Marianne, what did you want to say?
No, I was also going to ask about journaling, because several people in several groups I was in were talking about journaling being the hardest. And so I was wondering if anybody else might have suggestions on how to deal with that. So.
Are you talking just general scrapbooking or project specific? Because I find that when I am doing like a December daily or a holiday album, if I jot notes on the day, it makes it easier to scrapbook and journal the layout when I get to the crafty part. Whereas most of my everyday stuff is just sort of in the moment, off the top of my head, it is what it is. But if it's a specific project, like for December daily, I have what I call my December daily log, and I just type out what happened that day. And then my journaling could be about that, or it could be about something completely different. Like it might be about, I don't know, my 10 pairs of holiday socks or whatever I decide to do that day, but it could be about the day's happenings as well. And I've got the log there to sort of kick off and get me started, I suppose.
I do the same, Jenny, and when I'm on holidays, I normally try and sit down at the end of every day and just write down what happened. And then when you go back and read it later, you remember the emotions of it anyway. So if you just put, 3 or 4 points of what happened or a sentence or whatever, then you can go back and see it. And I think I was saying in one of my groups that if I'm sitting at a crop and I'm doing my project life or whatever, and I don't feel like journaling, I then come back to it. I just might keep it there, and once an hour I'll go back and do a couple of journaling boxes or a couple of journaling cards, and break it up by doing creative and then coming back to do a bit of journaling. And then so you're not just journaling the whole thing all at one time, because then it just becomes overwhelming.
I did that recently as well, kind of alternating between, I was doing type journaling and I don't want to do this all afternoon. So I would just alternate doing a section while with, doing a big layout on the desk. Iris?
Along the lines of taking a journal on a trip or whatever, I found that we were talking in one of our little groups about how we don't always limit the scope of our project because we want to tell all the stories. And I don't practice what I preach always. So the idea though is there that if I don't have the story in my scrapbook, it's still in my journal from that day, from the trip. And so it's still saved. It might not be in the pretty scrapbook part of it, but I can put the journal in the back of the scrapbook in a pocket or something. And so I have it there still. So if I really want all of the words, they're still there. And then that frees me to be able to focus on the pretty parts or the parts that are most important for me to show off.
I like that.
Justin.
Go ahead.
It's something that I don't keep in mind often, but way back in the day, do you guys remember Ella Publishing? Was it Ella Publishing? I can't remember which designer was really famous for this, but journaling doesn't have
Angie Lucas.
Angie Lucas, thank you.
Mhm.
I'll have to look that up. I think also in Get It Scrap, they might have had some classes on this. Journaling doesn't have to be paragraphs and paragraphs of stuff. You can get really creative. It could be a bullet list, a pie chart, a compared contrast, a timeline. So I think for me, I don't think of that as often as I should, but I'm going to try to incorporate that more because then I think that makes the journaling a little less onerous. It doesn't have to be pouring your soul out or every little detail. And even sometimes in some pages, my journaling is literally like one sentence, and that counts. So maybe just trying to find creative ways. Definitely look up if Angie Lucas's stuff is still out there. She had some great ideas on creative journaling and making it fun. And also, just kind of simplifying it in a way because it doesn't have to just be like a whole page of journaling.
Yeah, those are great tips. I think we could, especially with like travel, when you're trying to think of like, oh, you went to this restaurant or this beach or whatever, just like listing phrases and words. I know a lot of my high school memories are just these like word clouds of like the things that were memorable. And it's often just like words and phrases. And that can be really handy to jog your memory and to capture things that like you don't need to write an essay on how great this restaurant is. You just want to remember that you went to the restaurant.
We were talking in one of ours, and I said that the trend right now that I'm seeing, Janet Madison uses it and a bunch of others, where they type up some journaling and then cut it into pieces and stick it on their page. That drives me bats because if it's already in one piece, glue the dang thing down and be done with it. But they seem to want to have matchsticks floating all over the page, and I find it interesting that they're doing. I'm sorry. I find it interesting that they're doing that because to me, I'll flip one of those on the floor and lose it. So
I have.
Yeah, exactly. So, but that's another way to do it. If that works for you, great. Whatever it takes,
But I would say on regular layouts these days, I typically start in Photoshop. I type my journaling, print it out, and then I build my page on top of the hybrid journaling. And I found that ensures that I tell a thorough story that tells, it's the length that I want it to be. I can edit it, either make it shorter, longer, get rid of typos, weird words. And it just to make sure that it's there and there's no excuses because it's the foundation for the rest of the layout. It doesn't work for everyone because it might not be your design style at all. But some of my favorite pages have used that approach.
Mm-hmm.
And basically I learned that from Kim. All right, any other thoughts before we try to screen share again, in which my computer might freeze altogether? Alrighty, okay. So I'm gonna try to close a few more things here and see. I don't know exactly what was causing the issue, but all right, let's try again. And if it freezes again, I will see you guys all another time. All right, are you seeing the screen over here?
Yes.
All right. Okay, who knows what was causing it before? Alrighty, so this is our Simple Scrapper community. As I mentioned before, I know there's a lot of you who are members here, but there's also those who are not yet members. And I wanted to show you how to find our classroom for the finishing project. There's two different ways. One, it's going to be featured here in this featured box where we have all of our latest stuff, or we can pop over here to our resources area, which is where we have all of our classrooms, including our journey classrooms, which are these 2-month containers. And so you actually can find the finishing project classroom from inside the journey as well. It's kind of just like a little map of this 2-month period, September and October, because we're in the project's journey. But the finishing project is down here, or it's also pinned here at the top. We can pop right in. And the first thing I want you to do is make sure you click that start button, because that's going to make sure you have access to everything. And then it's going to guide you through step by step. So most of our classrooms have these 2 different areas. One's called the table of contents. Sometimes we rename them, but that's where you see the content. That is the classroom. And so if we get started here, we can see here's the, the first page, and then here's the pre-class section. And then we have an invitation to introduce yourself. And each one of these has an assignment. You can mark it complete and then have conversations. Many of our classrooms like this one are ongoing, so members can access them throughout the year and have for a number of years. But this is the only time we are leading the session live this year. So starting tomorrow through November 3rd, I'll be guiding you through the finishing project. The whole classroom is there for you, but we'll be having specific nudges twice a week for you to check in, keep going, keep moving forward, take stock where you are, and make your plan for the next couple days. We do these types of check-ins all the time at Simple Scrapper. The finishing project is just kind of a heightened version. We're really focusing on the accountability. So text-based accountability inside the classroom here, in particular over here on the activity feed, but also attending open crop times. Our calendar is blanketed with times. We have more than 12 hours a week for you to choose from. And then I'm also hosting 2 office hour sessions for you to come and ask specific questions about your project and really get help moving forward if you haven't already gotten there with the classroom itself. The activity feed is more of like the open conversation. That's where I'll be posting all these nudges to help you move forward. It's where you can post your own accountability posts and ask specific questions like, hey, I never finished this type of project. How do you do it? Or what tips do you have? Or I started this 10 years ago and I'm not sure how to course correct to get it done. I don't even have the supplies, or I don't even like it anymore. So share openly with what you're facing right now, and we can give you all of our options to help you move forward. And that's the benefit of doing this in community, is it's not just my voice, it's all of the voices of our community members who can jump in and help you out. So again, 2 areas, the activity feed and the table of contents. And I'm just so excited to be teaching this because I know how much it helps. We have members who've already dove in, members who've already finished projects and are on to their next project to finish. And I'm excited to be working on 2 projects myself. I have one that I'm considering an appetizer, which is my one little word for this year. I have a couple months to catch up on, and I'll be doing that. And then I'm also the big project, my main focus for the finishing project is my husband's Before Your Story album. We started that in June. We got about, 2/3, 75% done. And it's time to take stock and really push through to the end. I'm fortunate that he's my kind of creative collaborator on it, but I'm the one doing all the scrapbooking work. And so I need him to select some more photos, and we're going to get this project done in the next month. So I can't wait to share my progress with you at those office hours sessions as well. All right. Before we depart tonight, I'm so glad the screen share worked. Do we have any questions? All right, well, if you're not yet a member, you can go to simplescrapper.com/finish to join us. I hope you consider it, because this community has become so special, so warm and welcoming, and just something that I'm so proud to be a part of. And even though I'm technically the leader, I really feel that I'm part of the community as well. And it motivates me every single day and every single time I check in. And I'm looking forward to kind of feeding off that energy for my own finishing project. So I hope to see you all inside, and I hope you have a great week. Take care.
You too.